Your driving privileges could be revoked in 2026, even if you've maintained a flawless record behind the wheel your entire life. No collisions, no citations, and no violations of any traffic ordinances. What makes this particularly alarming is that you might not even be aware it's occurred until the consequences have already begun to unfold. There will be no flashing alert, no law enforcement agent knocking on your front door, and no opportunity to make things right. A single overlooked detail, one piece of correspondence that goes unseen, an automatic trigger in the database, and suddenly you're operating a vehicle unlawfully without any awareness of your status. This isn't speculation about the future. This is currently taking place across numerous jurisdictions. And as we move through 2026, the mechanisms causing these situations are becoming increasingly unforgiving. A large portion of motorists continue operating under the assumption that revocations only result from dangerous driving habits, but that perspective is outdated. Administrative issues, digital processes, and rigid time frames within systems that don't consider your experience or unblemished history are now responsible for most license actions. By the conclusion of this discussion, you'll understand exactly what's prompting these revocations, which specific requirement is affecting the largest number of motorists at this moment, and what steps you should take to safeguard yourself as 2026 progresses. To comprehend how we reached this point, it's essential to understand what shifted behind the scenes. The genuine explanation for why more licenses are being revoked currently has minimal connection to excessive speed or ignoring traffic signals. Three significant factors are converging at this moment, and their combination has fundamentally altered how motor vehicle agencies function. First, there's the demographic shift. Millions of Americans are reaching retirement years. Senior citizens represent the most rapidly expanding segment of drivers. By the conclusion of this decade, every member of the baby boom generation will be past age 65, and states face increasing pressure to implement stricter oversight of potential risks than ever before. Second, there's the technological transformation. This represents the most significant change. Agency operations are no longer slow, handled manually, and reviewed individually by staff members. Insurance records, law enforcement data, medical reporting systems, and driving records are progressively interconnected and updated almost instantly. This enables same-day enforcement completely devoid of human discretion during the moment of decision. The computer program doesn't pause to evaluate your track record. It doesn't consider your intentions. It doesn't ask for clarification. It simply detects an unmet requirement and imposes the penalty. Third, there are the financial pressures. Insurance payouts resulting from accidents have risen dramatically. States are responding with the primary tools available to them, increasing oversight, expanding compliance monitoring, and depending on automatic penalties rather than educational approaches, warnings, or individual officer judgment. Combine these three elements, and something crucial disappears: leniency. 20 years earlier, an administrative oversight might have prompted a gentle notification, followed by a second notice, potentially even a telephone reminder. Presently, you typically receive a single notification. If you fail to respond promptly, the system proceeds without your participation. No immediate appeal process, no extension period, no discussion. This explains why numerous responsible motorists are currently caught off guard. Not because they're hazardous, but because nobody informed them that the operating procedures had shifted. I'm Sophia. I analyze agency updates, traffic regulations, and licensing requirements using verified data from state transportation departments and legislative documentation. No exaggeration, no speculation. Today, I'm examining 5 modifications connected to 2026 that are quietly resulting in license revocations nationwide. I'm not beginning with the most obvious factor, and I'm not starting with age-related provisions. I'm beginning with the change that's affecting more individuals right now than any other, including motorists who've maintained perfect records for many years. This involves a requirement that doesn't resemble a violation whatsoever until the harm has already occurred. Numerous states currently track your insurance standing continuously through digital verification systems. This means your insurance company and the motor vehicle agency are electronically linked. When your protection lapses, even temporarily, the system doesn't wait, doesn't issue a preliminary notification, doesn't inquire about circumstances. It simply identifies the vehicle and initiates the penalty sequence. Many motorists hear this and assume, that doesn't apply to me. My coverage has been continuous forever. That presumption is exactly what's causing conscientious individuals to encounter problems. What's genuinely occurring is typically straightforward and easily overlooked. Your credit card reaches its expiration date and your automatic payment fails. You neglect to update the information. The notification about this goes to an outdated email address. 2 days afterward, the agency's system records an insurance interruption. Your vehicle registration is automatically suspended. A notification is sent through postal mail, but by the time it arrives, the suspension is already in effect. At that moment, you're legally prohibited from operating that vehicle, even though your driving behavior hasn't changed whatsoever. From this point, circumstances intensify rapidly. To restore your status, you must re-establish coverage, pay reinstatement charges and processing fees, and update your information. If law enforcement stops you during this period for any reason, officers can confiscate your vehicle immediately. Now you're dealing with towing charges and storage fees, plus a suspension on your permanent record. Your insurance provider sees the suspension and reassesses your risk level. Your rates increase, not because you caused a collision, but because the database indicates a coverage interruption. 10 or 15 years earlier, individuals could drive without insurance for weeks before anyone detected it. Currently, in numerous states, the agency becomes aware within 1 to 2 days. Consequences can include fines ranging from $100 to $500, reinstatement charges, registration suspension, and in certain situations, license suspension as well, all triggered automatically. This requirement doesn't target dangerous driving. It penalizes administrative oversights. And once the computer system identifies you, resolving the situation requires time, money, and documentation. Here's how you can safeguard yourself. Establish automatic payments using a reliable funding source. Consider linking payments directly to a bank account rather than a credit card. Cards expire regularly. Bank accounts typically don't. Once monthly, verify that your coverage remains active. Log into your account or contact your agent. This requires 5 minutes and can prevent months of complications. When changing providers, ensure absolutely no interruption occurs. The new coverage should begin before the previous one ends, not the following day. Certain jurisdictions treat even a 1-day gap as a lapse. Confirm that both your insurance provider and the agency have your correct postal address, email address, and telephone number. Most states still initiate the process with a mailed notification. If it goes to an outdated address, the suspension still proceeds. This single requirement alone accounts for more unexpected suspensions than anything else currently, because it remains invisible until it suddenly isn't. Now, the next modification doesn't begin with a citation, a collision, or even an agency form. It begins in a healthcare provider's office. Most motorists don't realize that in numerous states, physicians are either permitted or required to report specific health conditions that might impact driving ability. This isn't about punishment. It concerns liability and safety within an automated framework. Conditions that might prompt reports include substantial vision deterioration, epilepsy or seizure disorders, conditions causing abrupt loss of consciousness, significant cognitive decline, inadequately managed diabetes, and similar issues. In jurisdictions where reporting is mandatory, once your physician submits that documentation, the agency doesn't deliberate. It automatically initiates a process. Here's how individuals become caught unaware. You attend a routine appointment. You've had a condition for years. You've been driving without incidents. The physician notices a minor change or recognizes that your condition meets the official reporting criteria. As part of standard procedure, they submit a report. Weeks afterward, the agency sends you correspondence requesting updated medical documentation, possibly a vision examination, perhaps a fitness to drive form completed by your physician. You receive the correspondence. You feel fine. You've operated vehicles safely for decades. You set it aside temporarily. 30 days pass. The system doesn't wait for you to feel ready to address it. It automatically enters a suspension for noncompliance. No second notification, no follow-up telephone call, just a status update in the database. Most individuals discover this only when something else occurs. They're stopped for a minor traffic infraction, or they attempt to renew and discover the suspension. Now they're no longer simply dealing with a medical review. They're facing a charge of operating a vehicle with a suspended license, which constitutes a criminal offense in numerous jurisdictions. This can mean fines starting at $500 or more, court expenses, additional reinstatement charges, and in certain situations, potential incarceration, all because of a deadline on paperwork that was ignored. In most instances, your physician isn't attempting to take your driving privileges. The agency frequently simply wants updated confirmation that you're safe to operate a vehicle. But the requirement is straightforward. If you don't respond, the system interprets that as noncompliance and proceeds accordingly. So the protection here isn't worry, but rather promptness and communication. If you have a condition that might affect driving, discuss this with your physician immediately. Ask directly, is this reportable in our state? And what must I do to continue driving legally? If you ever receive agency correspondence regarding medical or vision review, respond immediately. Gather the documentation, speak with your healthcare provider, and submit everything before the deadline. Being proactive keeps you in control. Doing nothing guarantees the worst outcome. The first two modifications can affect anyone regardless of age. The third primarily targets a particular demographic. Across numerous states, renewal requirements based on age have quietly become more stringent. Once you surpass a specific age threshold, renewal may no longer be automatic. Online renewal options may be blocked. Mail-in renewal possibilities may be eliminated. In-person visits and on-site vision examinations become mandatory. The age cutoffs vary. Some jurisdictions begin additional requirements at 65, others at 70, 75, or 80. This inconsistency makes it difficult to recognize unless you actively investigate. Here's how this affects individuals. You're in your early 70s. Your license expires in a few months. You attempt to renew online as usual. The system rejects your attempt and instructs you to visit in person. Now you're forced to schedule an in-person appointment, sometimes weeks away. You arrive and take a vision examination under harsh lighting with pressure, perhaps on a day when you're tired. You don't fail completely, but you don't meet the standard either. That borderline result triggers a temporary shorter-term license, additional medical documentation requirements, possibly a follow-up driving examination or recheck. What you expected to be a 5-minute renewal becomes a multi-step evaluation process. None of this would have been as stressful if you'd known and prepared 6 months earlier. Failing a vision examination doesn't always mean losing your license. Frequently, it means you need updated eyeglasses, you're restricted to daytime driving, or you receive a shorter renewal period. The objective remains safety, not punishment. But the system doesn't slow down simply because you were surprised. So, take action now. Remove your license and check the expiration year. If it's 2026, don't delay. Visit your agency's official website and research renewal requirements by age. Note exactly what they require for your age group. Set a reminder for 60 days before your expiration. If you use corrective lenses, schedule an eye examination before you renew. Preparation transforms this from a stressful surprise into a manageable process. Just when individuals believe they've addressed insurance, medical, and age factors, the fourth modification appears in locations where they feel secure: traffic signals, parking areas, drive-through lanes. Distracted driving enforcement has progressed far beyond simple texting prohibitions. In numerous states, distracted driving now encompasses holding your telephone, checking notifications, scrolling through music or podcasts, accessing navigation applications, interacting with any application while the vehicle is operating. And here's what surprises almost everyone. If your engine is running, even if you're completely stopped at a red signal, touching your telephone can be illegal under current regulations. Individuals feel secure because they're not moving. The law increasingly doesn't make that distinction. Penalties escalate rapidly. First offense typically involves fines of $100 to $250. Second offense often brings $300 to $500 plus points on your record and notification to your insurance provider. Third offense in some states can result in potential short-term suspension. If you cause a collision while distracted, even a minor one, the charge can elevate to reckless driving or a more serious misdemeanor. Here's a real-world scenario becoming common. You're driving to an appointment. Your telephone rings. You answer it. An officer observes you. It's your second distracted driving citation within 2 years. You pay the fine. Points appear on your record. Your insurance provider increases your rates. Months later, you're at a red signal. Glance at your GPS. miss the light change, roll forward, and contact the vehicle ahead. No one is injured. But because you were interacting with your telephone, fault is clear, and your insurance provider raises your rates again. Now, one more violation could push you towards suspension territory or make your coverage nearly unaffordable. The simplest guideline is also the hardest to follow out of habit. If the vehicle is running, don't touch your telephone at all. Set your destination and music before you begin driving. Use hands-free voice commands if your vehicle supports them. If you absolutely must interact with your telephone, pull over, place the vehicle in park, then do so. Anything else is gambling that you won't be observed, won't be stopped, or won't make an error at a costly moment. Individually, each of these requirements is significant. Together, they explain why the consequences feel so severe. Because the fifth modification isn't a single requirement, it's a change in consequences. In the past, a suspension often meant pay a fee, complete a brief course, and move forward. Today, a single suspension commonly leads to 3 to 5 years of elevated premiums, State Route 22, or similar filings that can double your insurance expenses, points that permanently reshape your risk profile, difficulty renting vehicles, or being added to another person's policy. And most drivers don't realize that once you're flagged, you're essentially always flagged somewhere. An insurance interruption, a medically based suspension, a distracted driving mark. These exist in permanent digital records that follow you from company to company and from renewal to renewal. This represents automation's hidden cost. It makes enforcement rapid but also unforgiving. There's no clerk reviewing your file and saying, "You've been safe for 40 years. We'll make an exception." The system detects a missed deadline and records noncompliance, identifies an interruption and records risk indicator, sees a citation and records behavioral red flag. Those markers then influence every subsequent decision, from what you pay to how much scrutiny you receive next time. States are attempting to manage millions of drivers with limited staff and constrained budgets. Automation represents their solution. But when you combine this with stricter requirements and continuous data sharing, the probability of unintentional violations increases dramatically. That's why so many drivers feel like they're being affected unexpectedly. The requirements themselves changed gradually. The cost of errors changed rapidly. Small administrative oversights now trigger years of financial and legal complications. The positive aspect is that once you understand how the system operates, you can stay ahead of it. Here's a practical action plan that protects you from all 5 modifications simultaneously. No attorneys, no special treatment, just awareness and small steps. 1. Verify your license status and expiration date immediately. If it expires in 2026, visit your agency's website and research renewal rules by age. Don't assume your previous experience still applies. Regulations change quietly. 2. Schedule vision and medical examinations early. If you wear glasses, obtain an updated prescription now. If you have a health condition that might intersect with driving regulations, discuss this with your physician before any agency correspondence ever arrives. 3. Review your insurance payments and coverage dates. Confirm your policy is current, your payment method is up to date, and your new policy, if you switch providers, begins before the previous one ends. 4. Learn your state's distracted driving law from the official source. Does it prohibit all handheld use? At what point does it escalate? Does it apply when stopped at signals? Know the exact wording. 5. Update your contact information with both your insurance provider and the agency. If they mail you something important and it goes to an outdated address, the system will continue moving forward whether you see it or not. 6. Establish automatic payments and digital reminders. Use automatic payments for insurance and registration and set calendar alerts 30 days before any significant deadline. License renewal, registration expiration, medical reviews. 7. Maintain copies of everything: renewal receipts, insurance cards, agency notices, medical forms. Keep a physical folder and a digital one. If you ever need to demonstrate compliance, documentation serves as your protection. These systems aren't designed to eliminate your independence. They exist because states face pressure to balance road safety, lawsuit risk, and budget constraints simultaneously. But the system doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards compliance. The individuals who maintain licensed and insured status with minimal stress aren't the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who check early, respond promptly, and don't assume everything will work out. There are 3 significant concepts to remember from this. 1. Automated systems apply penalties immediately. Extended grace periods are disappearing. One missed requirement or ignored notification is sufficient to trigger genuine consequences. 2. If you're over 65, renewal is no longer a straightforward automatic process in numerous locations. You need to understand your state's specific regulations well before your expiration date. 3. Small, easily corrected mistakes now have lasting effects. A missed insurance payment, agency correspondence left unopened, or several distracted driving citations can transform into suspensions, substantial insurance increases, and months of difficulty. Driving isn't simply about moving from one location to another. It's about independence, getting to your healthcare provider, visiting your children or grandchildren, shopping on your own schedule, maintaining your lifestyle. Staying informed is how you protect that independence. If this helped you recognize the risks more clearly, subscribe so you don't miss updates as these regulations continue developing. Leave a comment with your state, and I'll direct you toward the specific resources applicable where you live. And if you know someone, particularly an older family member, neighbor, or friend who will be renewing a license or changing insurance soon, share this with them. One conversation like this can prevent years of complications. Stay informed, stay compliant, and protect your independence.